Fact, I'm gonna go at 5:30 tomorrow if I can get my
That's who you're with.
Yeah, she's the one that would. That's Sackett Woods. She owns farm. Are we expecting anybody else? Okay. Okay. All right, y'all ready? I call to order the Lynchburg Planning Commission meeting for Wednesday, June 26, 2024. The first order of business is the approval of the June 12th, 2024 minutes. Have y'all had a chance to look over any additions or corrections? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Great. The next order of business is the following new business where we will consider the petition of Rush Homes to rezone approximately 5 8/5 acres located at 1015 and 1019 Pinehurst Street from R3 Medium Density Residential District to R4C High Density Residential District conditional to allow the construction of a 48-unit residential development consisting of duplex and townhouse-style units.
Thank you. Members of Planning Commission, as stated, the subject property is about 5.8 acres at 1015 and 1019 Pinehurst Street. The existing R3 medium density residential zoning was established in 1978. The future land use map recommends a medium density residential use for the area. These areas are typically characterized by small lot, single-family detached housing, duplexes, and townhomes at densities of up to 12 units per acre. In addition to residential uses, these areas may also include public and institutional uses compatible in scale. The properties are currently undeveloped and slope upward from Florida Avenue. The purpose of the rezoning petition, as stated, was to allow the construction of a 48-unit development. There would also include associated parking and a resident community center. The voluntarily submitted proffers indicate that access to phase one of the development, which you can see here is in the dashed lower right-hand area. The access to phase one, which is 8 units, would be taken from Pinehurst Street, and that access would be gated and used only for emergencies once the access drive from Florida Avenue is constructed. And then residents and visitors would utilize that Florida Avenue entrance from then on. The proposed rezoning would facilitate the construction of a development at a density of approximately 8.2 units per acre. For comparison, the current R3 medium density residential district allows a maximum of 10.89 units per acre, and our future land use map recommends up to 12 units per acre. And the proffered maximum density of 48 units should have less impact on the area than if these areas were developed at their current by right maximum density. The proffers regarding access to the site should result in a safe egress and ingress for residents and visitors to the development from Florida Avenue. The neighboring homes on Pinehurst Street should be experiencing limited impact since only 8 units will be constructed using that entrance. The city's technical review committee reviewed this petition on May 21st. Minor comments will be addressed prior to final site plan approval. The planning division recommends approval of the rezoning with the voluntarily submitted proffers. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Who is here to speak on behalf of this petition?
Good afternoon. My name is Jamie White with White Engineering Design. I'm representing Rush Homes on this project. Ms. Frusheisen gave a good brief overview of what we're trying to accomplish here. There's a few things I just want to touch base on. We did meet with planning and engineering staff because we knew that there was an issue with access on the Pinehurst Street. Our original plan was to use that as our primary access only without a connection over to Florida Avenue. In our meetings with staff, we modified our approach on this and got that access across from Jubilee Street on Florida Avenue. Now, this project is broken up into 2 different phases that are coming from 2 different funding sources for Rush Homes. The first 8 units that we're having there are geared and marketed to families or people coming out of homelessness. Okay, so these folks typically do not have vehicles. If they do, you're maybe looking at 25, 30, 40% of them may have a vehicle there. So we're looking at a very few people in those first 8 units in our phase one even having access to a vehicle. So our impacts And what we're looking to do is build a connection temporarily to Pinehurst Street for our Phase 1 connection. It's going to be very minimal impacts to the existing roadway there. And what we're projecting is since the funding sources are coming from different locations, those 8 units for that funding cannot offset the cost to get that connection over to Florida Avenue. That will come as part of Phase 2, would be the other, I guess, was it 40 units or so. Once those units are under construction, our first order of business was to be taken care of, building that connection over to Florida Avenue. Once that is established, then we'll be closing off the access to Pinehurst Street, and it would be only used for, ingress and egress for emergency vehicles only. We still will have pedestrian access, so we'll have a sidewalk over to Pinehurst Street. A lot of the people that use these type of developments and live in these communities need access to public transportation. There is a public bus stop right at the corner of Greenfield and Florida Avenue. So they will need access to that route, and that'll be a good accessible route for them there. Water and sewer for this, there's ample supply for and availability for sewer here. Water line, the city's Department of Water Resources, they are in the process of running new water lines down Pinehurst Street now. And they're supposed to be completed that by the end of the year. So it ended up being pretty good timing for us. So that would be our ample water supply coming from there. Stormwater management for this project, we're kind of showing, we don't have a survey done on this yet, but just on the lower side of this, we're planning on have stormwater management there. Now, part of our process, as soon as we get through a rezoning, if we get approval, we'll have to do wetland and stream delineation in the bottom here. It doesn't seem to be a spring there, but DEQ may define some of those wet weather ditches as ephemeral streams. So we have to go through a delineation confirmation, and if we have to, and do an impact permit for those as well. That will take us a little time as well. We are going to leave as much vegetation on this property as possible. As you can see, back in some of the GIS aerial photos, it's almost completely wooded as of right now. Our impacts on this is just to get our road construction in and to get the units built. All the stuff beyond that, towards Florida Avenue and towards our neighbor on Pinehurst Street, we're going to leave the existing vegetation in place to keep a buffer there between us and the neighbors. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, great. Thank you. Did you sign in yet? Did you sign in?
I'll
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Same thing.
Thank you. We'll probably call you back.
We try to get this information. Let me just add this, just to get a little, at least on the duplexes, we were able to get some architectural renderings of the duplex units that we're going to be putting in there. It's very similar to other rush home developments that are in town. And then one of those units would be some quadplex units out there. So, and we'll make sure we give PDFs to staff so that they can put that in.
Okay.
So
Great. Thank you.
all right.
Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of the petition? You'll please sign in and state your name. Thank you.
Short. Good afternoon. My name is Tracy Bala, and I'm the executive director for Rush Homes. And I'm not going to belabor the point and just regurgitate everything that Jamie said, but I also am available for any questions that you had regarding this project. So,
Okay. Thank you. Is there anybody else here to speak in favor of the petition? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to the petition? Great. At this point, the public hearing is closed and commissioners can ask their questions to city staff or the petitioner.
either Tracy or Jamie, either. How many, are they 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom? What?
So the first phase will be 4 efficiency units and 4 one-bedroom units. Right now, we are making the other 40. We have it as 41 bedroom units. That might change, which would then reduce the number of actual units that we have. But the first phase, the first 8 would be 4 efficiencies and 4 one-bedrooms.
So they're,
Yes. Studio apartment.
yeah, so there wouldn't be more than, there might be 48 people or there might be couples in a 1 bedroom.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And generally you don't have a lot of couples, do you? You've got some, I know.
We do have some couples. Now, I will say that the first 8 that are designated as permanent supportive housing, those individuals, again, are typically at risk or exiting homelessness. And most often they don't come as couples, but I'm
Mhm.
not saying that they wouldn't.
Right.
But typically what we've seen is that they are individuals.
Mhm.
Would you foresee that temporary kind of situation for them? That would be something that they would move out of to something more permanent?
No, this would be their home.
This would be their home?
This is their home. That they would be exiting homelessness to find a home with Rush Homes.
Got it.
And we currently have 8 permanent supportive housing at Florida Terrace, and we have already leased up 7, 3 of which are currently homeless. As a matter of fact, they are being pushed out of the reset center. So right now, not being pushed out. They're closing down and they need someplace to go.
Yes.
So you say it's their home, but if they thrive and get a job and can afford an apartment of their own, they would move out, right? Or
This is an apartment of their own, but
Uh-huh.
if they do get an income that would be put them above the compliance, then yes, they would have to go to another home. If they're still within compliance for a different home within Rush Homes, they could go there. But if they wanted to, they can leave at any time that they want. But this is their home. It's an apartment just like you and I would rent.
So what is Rush Homes' kind of business model? It says it's typical of a Rush Homes development. What does that mean?
Would you mind clarifying just a little bit?
When you come in and build a development,
Mhm.
is it the same target demographic for every development, or is that Rush Homes does, or do you develop? Are you just a developer in general? It's something you do on the side.
Okay,
Who's the
no.
target demographic?
So Rush Homes is a nonprofit. We're the local nonprofit organization, and our mission is to provide affordable and accessible housing for individuals with disabilities and low income. So we typically serve the same population. The income varies depending upon the funding source for that particular apartment, but they're typically 60% of AMI and lower. That's the population that we serve.
So is the funding, when you say funding provided, you don't mean development historical, unless it's a portion of that, right? You mean funding for the residents to live there?
So we get all of our funding from various state and federal agencies. As a matter of fact, we are up for the city home art money. Provided we get the rezoning for this, we'll be before city council to be approved for that home art. So we receive grants. We also receive other fundings from Virginia Housing Trust Fund Department.
CDBG funds, that sort of
The
thing.
acronyms, the alphabet, we receive funding from them
Okay,
in order to build the development.
so to build.
Yes.
So when it comes to paying the rent, now you mentioned 7 of the 8, I think you had occupants now that were homeless. Are they Section 8? Are these federally government subsidized? Is that what that is?
So the permanent supportive housing units are typically paired with a project-based voucher, and a project-based voucher provides a subsidy for that apartment. It doesn't follow the individual. Most individuals are used to, accustomed to hearing about housing choice vouchers or vouchers that follow the person. For permanent supportive housing, most individuals exiting homelessness, they don't come with waivers. So we provide the waiver they don't come with vouchers. We provide the vouchers with the unit. And so, yes, it is subsidized.
But this is not, say, I don't know, better term, a halfway house. This is not a homeless shelter like we talked about last week.
No,
or
no,
last
this is an apartment that just like you and I would rent, it's just at an affordable rate so that individuals have a home.
Okay. Brings me to my last question.
Yes.
And I know this may sound insensitive. It's not meant to be it. I ask this because I know that there's some citizens of the city that will ask this question. So if you want to look at developments that are funded by government sources, typically maybe some private sources additionally, to build and are Section 8 type where they are subsidized to pay the rents by the federal government or some other entity, those might fall into the classification of a word that you used yourself, a project. How would something like this be different than, say, a project in New York or Watts, LA or something, which typically in 10 years are destroyed by the residents? So what is in place to kind of prevent that from happening
So
here?
first of all, Rush Homes has been doing this for the last 28 years, and we currently have 152 units. So we have an apartment complex called Armstrong Place that is off of Mons View. We have Victoria Ridge that's off Victoria Avenue. We have Old Forest Village that is off of Anthony Place. We just purchased Florida Terrace, which is at the end of Florida Avenue. We just built Florida Terrace, which is at the end of Florida Avenue. And then we just purchased Phelps Road, which is across the bridge in Madison Heights. So we have been doing this for a while because of our funding. And I don't want to get too far into the weeds with all of the acronyms, but different funding sources have different compliances that we have to follow. We don't allow our properties, whether we were mandated to or not, we do not allow our properties to reach the level that you are speaking of. We take pride. We have a community. Each one of our apartment complexes is a community. We also have what most developers don't have, which is a resident services coordinator, which it's akin to having a social worker for our people that live there.
On site? Is that on site or is it a call-in sort of?
The resident services coordinator is at Armstrong Place in the main office, but she can go to all of the complexes. She does things such as education. When it comes to Medicaid, when it comes to benefits, she helps people if they need a payment plan. They do fun things. She brings in outside agencies such as DSS, PACE, things like that, just to educate our tenants, but also to create that sense of community.
Keeps the ball rolling on things happening there. Rachel, Rachel, has there been any input from the police department on these areas as far as crime compared to the rest of the city?
No, there was no discussion of that at the TRC phase. I think Rush Homes' reputation speaks for itself. Their developments look nice and seem to function well.
And it's fit within the neighborhood.
The Victoria Ridge. So this would be very similar to that, right? Somewhat similar.
Somewhat similar. Those are townhouses, and then I heard you breathe. You go ahead, Jamie.
No, I mean, this is kind of a breakup of two different types of construction. Obviously, we're going to have a duplex and a quadplex on a phase one that'll be similar to these, which, but when we go to the townhouse for the phase two stuff, that would be more of a traditional looking townhouse type style development.
Yeah. So how many units are there on Victoria?
There are 20.
It's about half the size.
No, I'm 28, 24 or 28.
Yeah. That's a really nice, I live right up the street. That's a really nice facility. I live near Mons View. So, I mean, I think what y'all are doing is great. In the units that I've seen, that Rush has been handling are great. They look good. And my company works on a lot of different kinds of complexes. So, I think it's well, again, something that's needed and is an improvement. I was going to ask about the connection with Pinehurst. I think when we talk about like the neighborhood, I think it's a better connection where it comes out. I was curious, why is there no sidewalk going down to Florida?
We have not gotten to the site plan stage.
Okay. So there will be.
However, I will say that sidewalk requirements do have some situations you are exempt from sidewalk because of topography. Now, right here where Florida Avenue, it drops off like 8 to 10 feet very abruptly, which would put us in a waiver category if we require sidewalks along Florida Avenue.
I was thinking more to Florida Avenue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, for us, that does not meet ADA compliance for a.
Okay. So it'd be the Pinehurst would always be kind of, if people are walking, that's going to be their access. Great.
My only concern, that just to piggyback on that one, was you mentioned the bus stop at Greenfield in Florida. And to your point, it's pretty steep and it's not it's not a real good walking, situation from this site. I realize I would just be curious as to if that's even a concern or how you might have thought about handling that.
I think that we would leave the pedestrian access open to Pinehurst. So the street would be closed off and gated for only emergency services, but that sidewalk would remain open. And it would also be the appropriate slope for an individual in a wheelchair. And then they would have direct access to Pinehurst and then directly
Right.
to the bus stop.
It looks like it's almost flat.
Yeah.
Right.
Long Pinehurst, yeah.
Very, very light slope.
Know from experience that there are more people than I realized who are dependent on being able, who can't move, wheelchair, whatever, and they need that access. So that would be the only thing.
To Florida. I mean, that's something we'll look at the site plan phase. We do have exemptions for slope, but if they're grading for a driveway, we'll evaluate it at that time.
A sidewalk along that driveway to Florida Avenue, and you'd get to Florida Avenue and you'd be in the road. There's
nowhere to go
so
from there.
there's
Yes,
really no place to go.
I will say to that point, however, I've been impressed to pick up on what Commissioner Rogers said on the kind of work y'all have done. I remember seeing I'm sure that this isn't the right name, but the Armstrong School
Yes.
project I thought that was just creative. It just looks great. I've driven back there to show people a bunch of times going, this used to be a school, look what they've done. So, I didn't know y'all did the homeless stuff. I think that's an interesting situation. And I wonder, we had a conversation about Rush Homes before I came over here. And from what I understand, the only on-site support is that coordinator. Is that correct?
Yes.
There's not one for each thing. She manages all of them.
No. Currently, she's the only one for the individuals that we serve. However, we already have a memorandum of understanding with Miriam's House to
Right.
provide those case management services for the individuals. And I'm very proud of Rush Homes. And so thank you for that, because I believe that what we build is beautiful. It's not just a building and say, go live. They're absolutely wonderful. And I encourage you, the next time we open up, please come to the open house. I would love to show them off. But the individuals, we want them to stay housed as well. So
Sure.
the case managers from Miriam's House work very closely with our resident services coordinator to ensure that they can remain housed. We have an individual right now that we're working diligently with to make sure that he remains housed. So
We were discussing a kid with autism. His mother has terminal cancer.
yes,
And I was thinking, this is, you need to jump on this right now. And
Yes.
then the question would be, who's going to make sure he gets his medications and,
well,
that
a lot
kind
of our
stuff.
individuals have live-in aides as well.
Right. Because I know there are a bunch that have been there an awful long time.
Yes. We have a 1% eviction rate, and we have most of our people do not leave once they're there.
Well, y'all do a phenomenal job.
Thank you so much.
That's actually good to hear, the 1% eviction rate. That's along the target of what maybe I was looking for personally.
A lot of these people don't have any other options. So it's, and I've been impressed with the community feeling in those areas too. I mean, everybody kind of looks after each other. I don't know where that comes from, but that's a cool thing. It's a cool feeling to have when you walk on the place.
I believe it's just what we try to instill. And then again, with our resident service coordinator, when you bring them together and we have bingo and the office staff is there as well, it creates that sense of community, and they do look out for one another very much so.
If there's no further discussion, I'd move that we accept the motion as presented.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Good luck.
Good luck. All right. Any other new business or old business to discuss? All right. Can I have a motion?
Meeting in July, we have a comp plan meeting.
We do have a comp plan meeting on July 11th at 3 p.m. So as a reminder, you will be receiving materials for that next week. And that is, those materials are a little more extensive than our normal report. So, if we should not have a meeting on the 10th. So, but yeah, just as a reminder, if you can make time in your schedules to look at those materials ahead of time so we can have a good discussion about housing and economic development, that'd be great.
All right. Okay, do I have a motion to,
Motion on the table. I'll second it.
okay,
Yeah,
second.
put it out
All
there.
right. Oh, sorry. All in favor? Aye. All right. Opposed?
Just love pulling that rubber for the word. I love doing that. Now we have a motion on the table, so you guys clear it up. We can't do anything else.